Hello, multi-morphoric, oopsie-daisy, excuse me, multi-morphoric Morpheuses, yes, and thank you to Andrew for that mall mention, and Andrew's in Christchurch in New Zealand. Thank you, Andrew. Welcome one and all, malt mates, to Whisky Review 600. I'm Ralphie. I'm not in the Manx Bothy, but I'm still in the Isle of Man, somewhere in the middle of the Irish Sea. And what you can see behind me in this panoramic but sheltered spot is the north east coast of the Isle of Man. The town down there is called Ramsay, and beyond is the low-lying, mainly agricultural north of the Isle of Man. It's a charming place to walk around, actually. It's nice and old worldy. It's like a blast from the past. It's a little bit like a landscape in a time capsule, and that's part of the charm of the Isle of Man, actually. And one of the other charms is that living here, I can still go online and order whisky and other quality spirits from around the British Isles in the UK. And many years ago, in fact, what was the date when I bought this one? Oh dear. As you can see, it's a little bit windy. I was going to record this actually up a mountainside, but it was far too windy. And that's what you get in the Irish Sea. It's a windy place. Excuse me. If it falls over again, I'm just going to leave it. Many years ago I bought this whisky. I bought it was a bit expensive at the time. It cost me £63.90, but I bought it because I got a taste of it from a friend and thought it was really, really nice. In fact, it was bottled by Diageo, who own the distillery, and in my opinion the Rare Malt Selection series has been Diageo's finest hour. Not all the Rare Malt series whiskies are absolutely splendid and excellent, but some of the best versions you can find at age of a particular single malt are to be found comfortably within the Rare Malt Selection. So I bought a few of these bottles at the time because they're no longer available, and I encourage you malt mates to do the same. Not so much that you're collecting to resell and flip it, which is no harm in that if you're just an amateur and a keen anorak like myself. Good on you. But to have an opportunity to buy at today's prices, although it happens to be about 10 years ago, in fact longer, here we go, and then enjoy in years to come when you've got a quiet moment, you're in the mood, and you know, as they say, save it for a rainy day, but make sure a rainy day comes, and make sure there's plenty of them. Otherwise, people will drink your whiskies at your funeral and they won't appreciate them like you would. Oh, I'll leave it. I'm just going to leave it. This is my special treat for Whisky Review 600. There it is. Cask strength, aged 20 years. A lowland distillery. I love the lowland distilleries. They're full of special treats if you know where to look. And this happens to be Rosebank. It was distilled in 1981. I had left school and I was at college, being thoroughly bored, studying a pointless subject which was never going to be my career, but that's the way life goes. This has been bottled at 62.3%, and it has remained wonderfully intact and unhampered by its storage location. In other words, a sensible storage location. For the last, let me see, when did I buy this? 2004. 12 years. 12 years. Waiting patiently, and the moment has come. When I buy a whisky, just to keep a kind of record, for not so much for anybody else's benefit, but for my own, and I keep the receipts as well, just to give me a sort of indication when I eventually get around to opening a bottle, where I got it, when I got it, how much it cost, just general useful information that add to the experience of actually enjoying it once you actually open the bottle, because they jog the memory as to the time and place when you acquired it. Anyway, drop of water. I've not had much of this whiskey. In fact, I haven't tasted this whiskey for years. I can remember when I was a kid, I got one of my first tastes of whiskey was when my father got given a bottle of 12-year-old Rosebank from someone who lived in Falkirk, where the distillery is based, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. He'd never tasted it, he knew nothing about it. Bottlings as a malt were very rare, and as a result he thoroughly enjoyed how different it was from his favourite malt, which happened to be Talisker 10-year-old. What I enjoy about Rosebank is that cereal note. I would define it as rich tea biscuits. Now, you'll find them online, you can probably buy them on eBay. They're a sort of corn, wheat, light, plain biscuit, semi-sweet but not too sweet, where you get the kind of fullness of the cereal notes. In fact, I can remember as a child being taken to the biscuit factory where they made these biscuits, and it was actually very cruel because they did the entire tour of the biscuit factory without actually giving us any samples to the very end. So we're wandering around this production line smelling all these new baked biscuits and feeling very, very hungry. You know, but that's the cruelties and the memorable moments of life, is it not? And here it comes wafting right back to me. That memory has been triggered by the sense of smell. The smell of this whiskey here and now. It's got that beautiful freshness to it. I've stored it carefully, dark cupboard, cool temperature, out with the cardboard box. It's been stored in its container, which is a thin cardboard. It's not actually a brown cardboard box, which isn't so damaging in the long term, in my opinion. But the nose is wonderfully intact, and that's one of the beauties of alcohol, ethanol, drinking alcohol, is how remarkably it will conserve and preserve not just the flavour, but the integrity and the character of smell and taste for hundreds of years, given the right circumstances. The nose, gooseberry, mild grapefruit, creamy, slightly semi-sweet grapefruit, a touch of rind, beautiful wheat and corn cereal notes, although it is malted barley, single malt. It's a good version of Rosebank. The independent bottlers still have really good versions of Rosebank. It's one of these dead distilleries, these rest-in-peace distilleries that you can no longer find because it's no longer in production, so the only place to get them is at auctions. But if you do encounter it, you'll encounter a real character. Some of the versions in the independent bottlings are not good, some are tremendous. Go to Whiskey Base and do your research, malt mates, before you buy anything at auction. Strength of the alcohol, 62.3%, really comes across. It's nippy, slightly astringent, interestingly slightly salty, but very enjoyable. Immediately I'm relating to it that this is a long matured single malt with a less active cask, arguably ex-bourbon casks. I get the impression there's actually a touch of sherry in there somewhere, but a reasonable drop of water, not too much. Just give it a minute or two, settle down, open up. And also bear in mind I'm outside today. If you're outside and you're driving, don't drink. But if you're walking like me, it makes a nice little, great little stopover, as well as a cup of tea and a sandwich to enjoy a view. And the slight trail of a rainbow in the distance. Can you see that? Oh, that's a good omen, isn't it? Aha, softening up, settling down, opening up these fresh fruity notes. Delightful, soft, mild, confectionery lemon. The cereal notes subsided, but it's still holding its ground very nicely. There's a complexity, but an intensity of the spirit note. It's a spirit-driven experience from the distillery rather than a cask-dominated experience as you get with some older bottlings. And it's all the better for it actually, because you're getting the freshness of the spirit is still intact, and the cask influence is kind of modest, a little bit distant, and so we're getting a little bit of haze there because it's not been chill filtered, which is wonderful, a sign of the integrity and quality of the bottling. And I think I picked a really good whisky to suit the day. It's slightly blustery. It's not too high above sea level, as you can see. It's a little bit windy in exposed areas, which is why I picked this sheltered spot. And you just get a lovely, lovely view into the distance. There's a slight sweet, warm, sunshine, summer meadow note. And again, I'm moving from objective tasting notes or nosing notes to subjective now, as frequently happens with older whiskies. And it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a lovely thing. Because as much as you're analysing the whisky and enjoying it, it's triggering your imagination to a certain extent, and that can be a good thing. Soft confectionery arrival. It's getting more prolonged, and then you get a tangy development, goes slightly bitter, grapefruit. I'm getting a slight hint of coconut there, some fresh brewed tea, gooseberry, touch of guava right in the background. I'm getting more in the taste, of course, than I'm getting in the nose, because when you're outside, any wind, any movement of air is actually blowing the smell away from your nose. Even no matter how close you bring your nose to the glass, you're really not going to get the same analytical integrity that you would get inside in a non-odour room. But taste-wise, this is where the whiskey's really coming alive. It's a lovely nose, but the flavour is got a certain ripe grain note to it. The bitter, sweet, the sour. It's complex. There's a lot of things going on quietly, subtly. Nothing jumps out at you. And it's changing. It's evolving in the glass over time, so that the whiskey I'm tasting now, 5 minutes after I first started, is get a lot of different stuff going on in the glass compared to even what it will be in 5 minutes time from now. And that's one of the beauties of particularly older whiskies. They can take you on a bit of a journey. And I know I've mentioned it in the past, but it's worth reminding you that when you're paying more for a whisky, and bear in mind that as regards malt marks, I would give this 90 out of 100. It's not 94, 95. No way. It's not. It's 90, and you can get a young single malt. It's a lot cheaper than this now. That will give you 90 out of 100. Ardbeg Ugadal, for example, Springbank 12-year-old, Glenfarclas 15-year-old, Arran, Isle of Arran 10 or 12-year-old, there's Benromach 12-year-old. There's quite a number of really good quality younger whiskies out there, but they're giving you a different single malt experience to something which is traditional. Not double matured, extra casked, etc., etc., but traditionally matured, a bit of a yesteryear whisky, which you can still pick up at auctions. Ooh. Oh, bugger! Could you excuse me a second? I'm now getting a nose of tabletops. Fortunately, the table's clean. It gets a damp dusting now and again. No way am I going to let this whisky go to waste. It's not going to happen, malt mates. But that's the risk when you're outside on a windy day. It's the chance you take that you have a little accident. And what better way to celebrate 600 whisky reviews over 6 odd years, maybe 7 now, than to spill my glass of precious, valuable single malt and then pour it back out the portable table into the glass and continue as if nothing's really happened. Well, the show must go on, must it not? I hope you will join me shortly for my next review, which won't be a whisky review, funnily enough. It's going to be a cigar review. Yes, it's been a while since I've been reviewing some cigars, so I'm going to review some cigars in the Manx Bothy for you next. In the meantime, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the view and encourage you to enjoy the view with me. And if you happen to have a nice little single malt to help share the moment, all the better.